I'm pretty certain everybody, at least everybody in the game development world, is pretty well aware of what's going on with Unity. But for anybody that isn't fully up to speed on it, Unity have made some massively ridiculous changes. Changes to the pricing model that are just so questionable in and of itself. But the biggest issue is that those changes are retroactive, meaning that they've changed the terms and conditions that people are already working to. And to put it into full context, a lot of people use Unity as their career to make money. It's their financial lifeline. And whenever you're building a business or building a career, you need to know that the foundations that is built on are pretty solid, that aren't going to change. And for terms and conditions to change and therefore completely change and impact your revenue stream, just like that, when you feel like you've already agreed to these terms and that they should be pretty stationary and inflexible, for them to change just like that completely breaks trust. To put a bit more detail into it, Unity are introducing a new pricing system that will charge the customers, the game developers, for every install of their game. Not for every purchase of the game, but for every install of their game. Meaning a person can just buy your game, install it, and you'll get charged up to 20 cents for that. They can uninstall it and then install it again. You'll get charged another 20 cents. So if your game only costs $2, all they need to do is reinstall it 10 times and you've basically made no money. Now, there are some caveats around that, and the fact that Unity are currently saying that you will have to have a revenue of over $200,000 for over a 12-month period for you to be eligible to have to pay that. Also, they're putting into place caveats whereby if you use their ad system, you won't have to pay it. And these in and of themselves just show the issue and the problems with this whole idea and mindset, and the problem with Unity right now. First of all, we've seen Unity have no issue changing the terms and conditions. So who's to say that the $200,000 limit might end up coming down to $100,000 or even zero whenever they decide? And they can just do that. Secondly, having to use their ad system, an ad system which is very questionable and was a decision that Unity made to buy out ironSource, the ad system that Unity uses now, a while back, and people questioned that because there's so many question marks around ironSource, which we won't get into in this video right here. But just to summarize, it was a very questionable tactic of Unity buying ironSource, which goes into backstories of the people who bought into Unity when the company went public back in 2020, and so many questionable and shady tactics. Now we're being forced to use ironSource if we want to avoid this fee. And it puts into context and makes it very transparent to a lot of people what Unity now are trying to do, and the way that Unity has changed since 2020. Unity was the best place for game developers. I've used Unity for over 5 years now, and up until now, I've absolutely loved Unity. I've been proud to use it. I've talked about it, told other game developers about how great it is. I will say you should not put all your eggs in one basket. You should develop yourself and evolve yourself as a game developer to be able to be comfortable, not to have to use one engine. But in current game development and for indie game developers, the benefits of a game engine like Unity are too many to list. It can change game development timescales from years to months. And that's why I've loved Unity so much. It had an ease of access, it had an amazing community around it, had so much trainer material. And up until 2020, Unity was that amazing company and that amazing business. But since it went public, things have started to go downhill. Anyway, the reason why I've decided to make this video today is because when this information first started coming out and I started looking into it, I did start to get a little bit concerned, a little bit worried, initially for the direct impact to me. I have just finished the initial early access release of Gym Empire, the game I'm making, the game I've been making in Unity for the past 5 years. So I'm pretty committed now to completing Gym Empire in Unity, and I plan to do that as quickly as possible. But the reality is, Gym Empire is not making $200,000 in 12 months. So the changes don't impact me directly right now. And so initially, as I was reading the information and finding out about it, I was concerned about it for my personal reasons. How is it going to impact me? Is it going to change my future and my plans as a game developer? And initially, no. Long term, it could make a difference. My games could make a lot more money, or the terms and conditions could change further down the line to impact me. But where I really started to get concerned and I realized the gravity of the situation was when I started seeing people's reactions and reading how it was impacting so many people. Now, of course, YouTube has an amazing way of focusing in on current issues and making them sound like the biggest problems in the world, and then 2 weeks later no one's talking about them anymore. So okay, there's loads of YouTube videos popping up. Hey, you're watching one now. Twitter's the same. Twitter, X, whatever it's called now. It's the same. Social media in that respect, it's the same. Big problems that just disappear. A couple of weeks later, no one's talking about them anymore. So I was a little bit unsure at first as to the level of the situation and how it was really affecting people. But it was when I started looking on Game Dev Reddit. Game Dev Reddit, I go on a lot. I love reading the postmortems on there. I love trying to help people out with any questions. But when I started reading everyday game developers' perspectives and issues with what was going on with Unity, I really started to realize the gravity of the situation and just how much Unity and the people behind these decisions have destroyed the reputation of Unity, have destroyed the trust in the company, and have wrecked almost the dreams of so many game developers that have been using Unity, and the happiness and the comfort that they've gotten from using Unity just been destroyed. Because we're now in a situation where how can we continue to use Unity in this scenario? We certainly cannot continue to use Unity. It's my personal belief. You do what you want. But we certainly can't continue to use Unity with terms and conditions like this. We certainly can't continue to use Unity with terms and conditions that can be changed retrospectively so easily. Could we continue to use Unity if things changed drastically, if leadership changed, if terms and conditions were made static and solid? You could argue we could begin to do that, but at that point, how much do you want to really go back into trust in a company like this? Is it time to ditch ship? Is it time to move on to Unreal, Godot, any of these other amazing game engines like Game Maker Studio? I will do a video talking about alternative options and where I'm going to be moving after Jim Empire. But where are people meant to go now? And the questions that people are asking the game dev community right now are so real, genuine, and true. It's not just that people are jumping on a hype bandwagon. People are genuinely now thinking, do I finish the game that I've been developing for so many months or years? Do I move it to another engine? Do I just ditch it? Game studios are taking their games down, are removing them from sales. Game companies are removing adverts from their games and cutting their revenue just to make sure that Unity cannot get money from them, to make sure that they don't fund leadership decisions like this. Somebody on the game dev community made a really good point as well as to how we can impact, if we want to continue to make our game, to continue to finish the game that we're making, how we can still impact and make it clear to Unity that we will not accept this. People were talking about getting rid of any extra licenses you've got, making sure that the license number of Unity reduces significantly so they can see the impact. Talking to new budding developers or people who are starting to learn game development, to talk them into alternative options other than Unity, to see that direct impact right now. So then the leadership sees that they are not making the decisions for us. We are making the decisions for them. Because we see this all the time. We see this in businesses, companies all the time that tell us that they are there for the community, that tell us that they are there for the customers. But the reality is every decision that they make, especially public companies in these scenarios, every decision that they make is purely financial and it has nothing to do with customers. The only thing that it has to do with customers is if they can make us spend more money. But the reality is Unity is different. As customers, we are different because there is no Unity without game developers. There is no content without our video games. There is nothing without us. And whereas a normal product, somebody might be able to sell it to you and we would just consume it. We would just use it. We don't do anything to it other than use it. Unity thrives off our ideas, off our imagination. And if we take our imagination somewhere else, if that imagination is not there anymore, if our game dev ideas are not there anymore, Unity has nothing. It doesn't matter how good its workflow is. It doesn't matter how good a product it is. If games are not being put out made by Unity, if that Unity banner is not popping up on games, there is nothing for Unity. And I don't like saying this because the decisions made by Unity are from a select few in the leadership hierarchy. I really feel for all the amazing workforce, all the amazing developers behind Unity that have helped make this such a great program, such a great game development engine, the people in the community, in the forums that have helped us and answered questions and made Unity what it is over the past years. I feel for them because a product they care about, a business they've worked towards helping support now has broken their trust as well, not just ours, but their trust as well. And that's why, for me, I have to finish Gym Empire. It's already released, and I have to complete the early access version up until full release because the people that have bought Gym Empire need that. I owe that to them, and I will develop Gym Empire exactly the same way I always intended to and complete it fully and give all the people that bought Gym Empire, the whole community, that amazing experience that I promised and will give them. I will do that. But as soon as Gym Empire is done, I'm done with Unity. And that's another thing. All the people that developed assets in the Unity Asset Store as well, the impact to them, it's just insurmountable, the damage that these selfish and greedy decisions have made. So from this point on, I will be moving. I'm going to be making my decision. I suspect I'll be moving to Unreal because of the community behind it, because of the asset store that it has, because of the trainer material, and because it aligns well with what I need as a game developer and as a software engineer. But I've used GameMaker Studio in the past, love that. Godot, I'm looking into understanding more about that and what options it has. And if you want to understand my decision process and where I'm going to be taking my game development ideas in future, or if you want some help trying to understand what alternative options you have to move your current game development or to start learning if you're a beginner, I will do a follow-up video talking about alternatives to Unity. But as it stands right now, I don't really know what else to say. It's the only word I can use to describe the situation right now with Unity. It's just sad.